Hey everyone, welcome. My name's John, and in this channel I talk about lots of different topics in clear, natural English, and you are tested on your listening skills. Every episode has a list of keywords and phrases in the description. Look at them now or at the end, up to you. You're in charge. Do what you like. And today we are talking about taking tests. Obviously very important, so let's start right now.
Okay, next question. True or false?
So just to be clear, this video is not about any specific test. This is not about the IELTS, the IELTS exam, or TOEFL or anything like that. Today is about taking tests in general, tips that would be useful for any kind of test. Some tips for writing, some for listening, and a lot of tips on how to prepare. So the first step in being prepared for a test is actually feeling prepared. And if you search anywhere on being prepared for a test, what to do, I think the most common two tips you're going to find are, firstly, get a lot of sleep the night before. And second tip, don't be nervous. Before I made this video, I kept seeing those two tips everywhere. And they're great, but let's talk about them a little bit more because just by themselves, I don't think they're very helpful. So the first one, get lots of sleep the night before. Great advice, but it doesn't always work out, does it? I'm somebody that often struggles to sleep even without the stress of having a test the next morning. So you know yourself best. If you think that you're going to be awake for a long time because you're stressing out, worrying about the test the next day, then here's a couple of things that I do to try and help that. Firstly, I wake up early the day before the test, and I also do more exercise, any kind of physical activity, more than I would usually do. This will help me make sure that I'm feeling really tired that night and I'm more likely to sleep a lot better. Also, when it starts to get a bit later, like after dinner, 7 p.m, I will stop doing anything that really stimulates the brain. Most importantly, I will not do any more studying that evening. I do not want to have that on my mind. I will do something a bit more relaxing. I'll either watch a bit of TV, read a book, have a bath. You know, everyone's different. Do what you would often do to unwind and feel relaxed. Doing all those things together, you're far more likely to get a good night of sleep. The second one, don't be nervous. I think there's a few things you can do to help with that. Firstly, try and think positively about the test. Think of the options that you'll have if you don't pass. Are you able to take the test again? Will you have learnt something from failing? If the answer is yes, then, you know, that's something to try and keep in mind. Like, this test is not the end of the world. Also, try to find out everything you can beforehand to feel prepared. Know exactly where the test is happening, plan exactly how you're going to get there, and before you go to bed, have everything packed that you're going to need. Your pencil case, calculator, anything. Make sure you have that stuff ready, and feeling prepared for that is going to make you less nervous, hopefully. I also think that nutrition is quite important. Ever since I was in school, if I had a big test, I would always have a really big breakfast before test day. I don't know how much this really helped, but it was something I kept doing, and yeah, I don't want to feel hungry during a test. I also took fish oil tablets, and there's a lot of research that says that taking them can be really good for focusing, good for your brain. I think that's really worth looking into as well. As for caffeine, I feel like that's a personal decision. If you drink caffeine quite a lot, then I'm sure it's going to be fine for you. If you don't usually drink tea or coffee and you're doing it just for the test, then just be careful that you know what your body is like and how it reacts to it. The energy that you get from caffeine often comes crashing down later. If you look up online, it will say 5 to 8 hours later, but that's different for everybody. If you have coffee 2 hours before your test and it's a 3-hour test, then you might find that you're going to start crashing before the test is over, which obviously you don't want. So yeah, just be careful of that. Okay, let's take a little break right there and test your listening. Firstly, I talked about two very common tips that you hear a lot. Can you remember one of them or both of them? Try and say it out loud or to yourself. The tips were getting lots of sleep the night before and trying not to be nervous. Second question, what can you do to make sure you get a good night's sleep? Waking up early the day before, getting more exercise, and doing something relaxing before bed. And third question, did I say caffeine is a good idea or not? I said it kind of depends on you and what you're used to, but be careful of the timing for when your energy is going to come down. Okay, so how about actually practicing for the test? I think it's always a good idea to find out as much as you can about the structure of the test, how long it is, what the sections are, how long you have for each section, and if possible, try and find out how many points you get for each section as well. Because sometimes you find out that one section can give you a lot more points than another section. And if you know that, then you can allow more time for those extra points. This is something that happened to me with the Japanese language test that I took. The most points were at the last two questions at the end. So I did that first and then went back and did the other stuff that was less important. Once you know the structure of your test, it's really good to try and recreate those test conditions at home. Now, sometimes you can go and buy a practice test paper. If you can, great, try that. If you can't, try and do similar exercises over the same amount of time. This might be very important if your test is very long. Everybody says you should study every day for just a little bit of time, and usually I agree with that. But if your test is going to be 3 hours long and you've only studied for like 30 minutes at one time, you might not know how your brain is going to handle the last part of 3 hours. You might find that you can't focus at all on the questions or on anything after that amount of time. So it's good to try and practice that, practicing the endurance part of the test. If your test is only 1 hour, maybe it's not so important. Okay, now during the test, it's not as much that you can do, but just a few things that might come in handy for you. Firstly, try to just pace yourself and look over the whole test paper at the start before you answer anything. This will let you know what's ahead and will hopefully allow you to be a bit more calm and allocate your time better. Next tip, and this is very common, I'm sure you already know this, but it's okay to skip a question you don't know and come back to it later. Don't waste so much time on one part. And also, you might find that there are hints to the answer in a later question, so you might then be able to come back. Okay, some tips that are specifically for listening tests. It's very easy to get behind when you're trying to listen to something, and if that happens, I always just say to myself, nope, forget it, move on, listen to the next one. Because if you keep worrying about the previous question, then you're probably not going to know that one, and then it's going to stop you from knowing the current question as well, and then that will continue, you won't hear the next one, so you just have to say no, move on. And another tip is about writing notes during a test. If they give you a big space for writing notes during a listening test, don't feel like you have to write so much. It can be very distracting. It might be best for you not to write any notes at all and just focus on listening. But if you are going to write notes, try and keep them very short and quick. And try and find a way of writing notes that works best for you. This is something I do when there's a listening section. There will be 3 sentences said out loud, and I have to choose the correct one. I will just write a number between 1 and 10, and I'm telling myself if I think the answer's right. So if I hear the first option and I think, oh yeah, that's probably right, I'll put like 8. And if I think, wait, no, that's definitely not right, I'll put a 0 or a cross. Then after the last sentence, it's easier for me to choose one of them if I'm not sure. Okay, questions 4, 5, and 6. Question 4, is it a good idea to skip questions you don't know and come back to them later? Yes, definitely. Question 5, what should you do if you're trying to listen to a section and you start to fall behind? Just forget it and move on. And last question, is it a good idea to try and copy the exam conditions at home, trying to do it the same? Yes, it is. If it's a 3-hour exam, try and do a 3-hour study session with the same kinds of exercises. Okay, so today we've talked about taking tests, and if you didn't do so well in the listening today, don't worry, it's not a test. Sorry. Just look at the words and phrases down below, click on the words that you would like to hear again. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, show some love. I really appreciate it. That's it. Have a good day. See you later. Bye.